what do I really have to say after what Kelsey said, and then after some of the things just some of the stories? I feel like there's been a little discrepancy in that. Like, this is me right here. This is me. Who is this? All right, who is this right here? God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. Who is that over there? All right, it's just cool. Just looking at this. We had some info meetings throughout 2015, nothing real formal, just some info meetings. And then this right here is our Mercy Road days. We added no one. All right, nobody came on Sunday. Everybody who was there thankfully stayed. There was just not a lot of growth. And then we got to June, and we're like, oh my gosh, is this really going to work? When we launched in September, so there's a lot of concentration here, September. And then the first of the year of 2017 was a huge growth thing for us. But hey, good evening. My name is Justin. I'm one of the pastors here. And I know that we do have some first-time guests here. And so if you are here for the first time, I think it's a cool night that you decided to be here. I'm going to share with you just a few minutes. It's not going to be a full-length message. Some of you didn't have supper. You came straight from work. You're like, all right, wrap it up. Let's close in prayer. But when we were back in this stage of the game, you don't have a lot of answers. All you have is some questions, right? You have no idea what your church is going to look like. All you can think of is, what if we could be a part of this? What if we could be a part of a community where everybody is welcome? What if we could help create a place where you did belong before you believed? What if we could create a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-generational church that did not reflect the demographic of Hamilton County, but instead reflected the demographic of heaven? What if we could do that? What if we could be a part of a movement of God that wasn't fake or fabricated, but raw, authentic, and real? What if we could create a place that people loved so that they could experience a loving God? What if we were a part of a church that didn't focus on behavior modification, but passionately pursued life transformation? Those are the questions that we were asking in 2015 and 2016. I had a gentleman come up to me in the lobby this last Sunday. He was here with a friend. And he just said, I know this is going to sound weird. He's like, but this is my second time here, and I can already feel my life changing. And it didn't sound weird to me. It sounded like the biggest compliment I could possibly ever get. More than good message, more than great worship, we want to be a part of a movement of God that transcends communicators, that transcends worship styles, that transcends locations, that allows people to experience not just, hey, be a better person, but God transforming their hearts, not just their behavior. With every person that comes to Hope City, God has added to our story. We're the culmination of all of your stories added together. And we're 19 months into this journey, and God has done some incredible things. Over 40 people in the last 19 months have accepted Christ. 23 people have been baptized. We've grown by 33% since moving into this facility. We had over 400 people here at Christmas, almost 400 people here at Easter, which I thought was a huge win since every school system was on spring break that week. Our student ministry has more than doubled in the last 6 months. We have 140 adults in community groups or connection groups. We have 170 adults that serve on teams. We've helped start 4 new churches in 2017, and we're going to help start 4 new churches in 2018. We gave over $24,000 away last year, despite being supported by other churches. See, the story of God is primarily displayed through the people of God. Some of you are going, whoa, I don't know about that. What about the Bible? Well, what is the Bible? The Bible is a collection of stories about who? People. Right? So the story of God is primarily displayed to this world by the people of God. You and I are the primary reflectors of God's character, of God's love, of God's passion, of God's pursuit. We're plan A. The church, not this church, but the capital C church is plan A. Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says it like this. He says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand for all to see. Now, those aren't lights. Those just represent lights. But it gets light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. What is Jesus saying? The people of God are the primary the primary communicators of the person of God. People of God are the primary display of God's character and love. And we're not the only new church with a story. The very first church had a story as well, as recorded in the book of Acts. And I just want to take about 10 minutes as we close just to look at this passage of Scripture, just to, as we kick off summer, as we kind of come to the halfway point of 2018, I want to engage our focus. I want to re-engage our hearts. I know that we're going to be going a lot of different places and a lot of different directions this summer. And so I want to leave you with more than I could talk about on a Sunday morning when we have tons of guests here. I would consider this probably the core of Hope City Church. I want to just share with you some of my heart as it pertains to Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. This is the story of the very first church. It says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Sounds just like Jensen and Sierra's small group. Everyone was filled with awe that the many wonders and signs were performed among the apostles, and all the believers were together and they had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone as they had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. God added to their number daily those who were far from him, not those who were transferring from other churches, not those who were upset with their pastor, not those who didn't like the worship style at their church, not those who, got sideways because the color of the carpet isn't what they really liked. These were people who were far from God, that had no hope of a relationship with God, that God began to bring into a relationship with him. That's what the first church was all about. And so I just want to give you just some of the essence, some of the characteristics, some of the ingredients of the story of the very first church. And the first is this: they love God deeply. They love Jesus deeply. And as we go into the summer, I want us to be a community of people that falls more in love with Jesus. You know how you're going to overcome the addiction that you struggle with. You know that how you're going to overcome the temper that you promised that you would not lose. You know how you're going to overcome the impatience that you feel or the anxiety that you feel. It's not by attending church more, although I love that you attend church. It's not by just reading your Bible more. It's not by prayer. All of those things are important, but Jesus is the only hope that we have for transformation. And so if I can inspire you, if we can inspire you as a community to love Jesus more, then more of your heart is going to transform. It's just what Jesus does. I've said this so many times, but people in the New Testament who were nothing like Jesus, they loved Jesus. And you know what Jesus did in return? He loved them. And it was that love that began to transform them. It wasn't a guilt trip. It wasn't shame. It wasn't morality policing. It was the unconditional, reckless love of God that transforms lives. And that's exactly what it does today. And so we need to be a community that loves Jesus deeply first. Secondly, they had genuine boldness. There was this sense of awe and wonder that the people in the first church felt. And it inspired them to be bold. It inspired them to take risks. You know why I think I'm 44 years old, which is really sad to me as I say it out loud. It was a struggle is not the right word. I had to pray longer about starting this church than anything I'd ever done in my life. You know why? Because I had accumulated more. And when you have more to lose, you fear losing more. Right? When I was 28 when I started my first church. We had nothing to lose. It was just like, okay, we have very little. And so the risk seemed higher in starting Hope City. It probably wasn't in God's eyes. God's like, I got this, relax. But in my eyes, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge risk. And the longer you walk with God and the older you become, you're going to have to push back against the fear that you're going to fear when God calls you to be bold. But these first Christians, this early church, they demonstrated unbelievable, genuine boldness. And here's what I want to say as you go into summer. You're going to have a lot of time with people. More time this summer with people than you've had over the last 9 months because you spend time outside of work. You spend time outside of your house. What if God could use you to share hope with your neighbor this summer? What if God could use the marriage difficulties that you've gone through to help encourage someone else in their marriage? Noah Johnson I think he's going to be a sophomore at Heritage Christian. He invited a kid off his AAU team to come to Hope City. And the kid lives in Martinsville. And so the kid starts coming with Noah, and he starts having to stay the night because his parents don't want to drive him here from Martinsville every Sunday morning. And so he starts staying the night with Noah, and he starts coming. He was just baptized 3 weeks after Easter in our baptism service. It was just this bold invitation, this one bold invitation that changed this sophomore in high school's life. It changed both of their lives. One of the things that I loved about Connor and Drew's story is Connor was invited here by his fiance, his girlfriend at the time. And then Connor invited his brother, and then his brother invited his wife, and his wife invited her friend, and her friend invited her friend. Like there's just this boldness of, hey, I love this place. I want you to come and experience this place. And God's going to give you opportunities this summer to be bold in your faith, to grow in your faith. Growing faith will always require boldness. Continuing to write the story of God that He has in mind for us at Hope City will require boldness. What if you stepped outside of your comfort zone and started a ministry here? What if you stepped outside of your comfort zone as they were talking and joined a connection group this fall? What could God do in your life? How could God transform your heart? Third, they had a commitment to each other. If you look throughout the book of Acts, it's just over and over and over again the relentless commitment that these people had to one another. It says they are all together and they had everything in common. There was this sense of unity. And one of my goals for Hope City, one of the things that I don't know how we achieve this. I think it's possible. And I think we're on a good track to achieving this. But one of my goals is I want us to experience unity, but not uniformity. I want us to have, I want us to have a sense of togetherness. I want to have a sense that we're all going in the same direction, but I want us to be different. I want there to be Republicans and Democrats and feel the burn people in here. I want there to be, people from every walk of life. I want there to be a difference in age. I want there to be a difference in race. I want there to be a difference in belief. I want there to be people here who don't believe in God. I want there to be people here who believe in God but don't believe in Jesus. I want there to be just a diverse group of people that are all going in the same direction. I think it's possible because it was possible for this first church. And in fact, it's because of their unity but not uniformity that God did such amazing things. There was a bunch of Jews and a bunch of Gentiles all coming together to make the first church. And yeah, they had problems. And yes, they had discussions and disagreements. And yes, they weren't perfect, but they yielded to the person and will of Christ. And it made all the difference. Sunday mornings might inspire us to change, but unless we have a commitment to one another, we're not going to experience lasting life transformation. Why? Because life change happens best in the context of small groups. Think about your favorite teacher. Do you remember one lesson they taught you? Your favorite high school teacher? Favorite middle school teacher? Do you remember the algebra lesson they taught you, or do you remember the investment they made in your life? Right? You're not going to remember, this is really sad to me too, you're not going to remember the messages I give. Oh man, what am I doing here? Let's close in prayer. All right? The message might inspire you, but relationships sustain your life transformation. And so this fall, we're going to launch a lot more connection. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But commitment to one another is key to who we want to be as a church. And finally, they experienced radical generosity. They were committed to radical generosity. And generosity is really an overflow of trust in God to provide and a realization that He owns everything. That it's this weird combination that most people who are generous, they have a high level of trust that God is going to provide for them, and they have this realization that God owns it all anyway. And so it's easy for them to be open-handed because God provided it and He owns it. So I'm just going to give it. That was their mindset. And we have grown tremendously in generosity as a church. I'm so grateful for the generosity that's been displayed through this. We came to this building, and there was no logical way we could have ever afforded to be here. And people stepped up and were generous. They gave over and above what they typically give. I gave an update back in March of our financial picture for the first quarter. Now that we're almost through the second quarter, if you weren't here in March when I shared that, our weekly need moving into this building is $7,000 per week. Okay, about $28,000, a little over $28,000 per month. Our offering for the whole month of January was $12,000. I'm not good at math. That's not good though. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. And so over the first quarter of the year, we were sucking wind, right? We were trying to catch up from that very first month. It was 20,000 in February, 22,000, I think, in March. April of 2018 was the first month that we hit our budget. Now, by budget, I mean that's to keep the lights on and the rent paid. Okay, so that's not like frills. That's just $28,000 what it takes to keep it going. And so about 3 weeks ago, I had a board meeting, and we started talking about how we have we've gone through our savings, we've gone through our reserves, and what are we going to do to sustain ourselves for the summer? Because I don't know if you know this or not, but you guys travel in the summer. And so attendance has already dipped. Really, after Mother's Day, it's all downhill until August. Okay, it's just how I just recognize that it's okay. I love your attendance, but I love the fact that we want to create a place where you don't feel guilty for going to the lake. You don't feel guilty for going on vacation. If I say I've missed you, it's not because I'm taking attendance. It's because I really missed you. And so we just recognize, our board recognized, hey, this is going to be a really critical summer to continue to build momentum and to continue to build generosity. And so they challenged me to raise $20,000 from within the people that go to Hope City and $60,000 from different churches. Last year, we raised a little over about $175,000 from outside organizations to help us in our first year of ministry. All of that support stopped January of 2018, when coincidentally our rent increased by $8,000. Okay, so there was a lot going on at the first of this year. And so just to give you kind of a bare bones update, I've been able to raise about $12,000 from within Hope City. I have another $5,000 committed for later in the summer. And then I've been able to raise about $10,000 of the $60,000 that the board wants me to raise from other churches. Churches that Trish and I have spoken at and done marriage conferences for. We've gone back to them and said, hey, we need a little bit longer runway to get us to September, October-ish until we think our 33% increase in attendance, our giving is going to catch up. And so I wanted to give you that update, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it in more detail. But as I look at the First Church of Acts, and I come to our church and say, okay, what does generosity really look like for us? We're never going to put pressure on people to give. Here's what I would encourage you to think through. If you call Hope City home, will you give to your capacity? Some of you can afford to give $10 a month. And if that's what you can afford to give, then give that. Some of you can afford to give $1,000 a month. And if that's what you can give, then give that. I can't determine that for you. I know that my wife and I are all in on this place. And we have prayed that God would allow us to increase our generosity. And that's our commitment. But here's why this is so important. This is chapter 1 of our story. We signed a 30-month lease. Okay, so we're 8 months into a 30-month lease. We have 22 months left in this building, and I think they're going to bulldoze it. I think they're going to build what's across the street. That's at least what they told us. They wouldn't sign a longer lease than 30 months. And so this fall, we're going to create a facility team, and we're going to start searching out what is next for us. And as God has increased the growth of this place, it's not going to be something smaller, right? It's not going to be something that is going to be really obvious. It's something that we're going to have to pray about and seek God about. And so the muscles that we build now are going to prepare us for the next chapter of our story. And so this isn't about just paying the rent and keeping the lights on. That's not what it is at all. It's about the life change. It's about the Connor and the Drews. It's about the small group. It's about all of these people who are representative. Every life is a story that God has brought into this place, and we get to steward it. We get to travel this road together. We get to be a part of the story together. So where we're going, I'm going to wrap up with just give you some goals for the fall, actually this summer and then fall. July 15th, we're going to cancel services. Not cancel, we're going to kind of redistribute our services, and we're going to take that time from 9 a.m. to noon on July 15th. We're going to meet here, and then we're going to be dispersed into our community to do a serve day that morning. And it's going to be a really great day for us to come together and to pour back into different locations around the city. I had a conversation today about organizing a mission trip to Haiti this fall or early next year. I really want us to see us have 200 adults in small groups, which would be 20 connection groups. Right now we have 12. So we're going to really need new connection group leaders. We want to have 200 adults that serve on teams. Our goal is to equip you, empower you, and unleash you to be the light in this world. We want to grow our span of care here at Hope City to where it's not just a Sunday morning experience. It's not just small groups. We want to launch men's and women's ministries this fall. I'm working on a spiritual gifts class for this fall. We're going to launch this thing called a Rooted class. It's a 10-week Bible study that you'll be able to attend. We're hoping to launch that in October. We're going to do a vision series in August. And then the week after Labor Day, we're going to do a series called You Asked For It. And it's going to be questions basically that you submit that can be as controversial as possible. And it's going to be a series for you to invite your friends to. Because a personal invitation is the best form of evangelism. As you tell people about your faith, as you're bold with your faith, our church becomes more of who we're called to be. And here's what I know. Our story is just getting started. We have an opportunity to allow our story to intersect with God's story and to make history. And here's what I know to be true. The story of Hope City, in God's mind, started way back here. But the story and the impact of Hope City goes way beyond June of 2018. It lives every single day in your heart, and your heart, and your heart. And it's not about brick and mortar, and it's not about money, and it's not about lights, and it's not about music, and it's not even about a communicator. You know who it's about? It's about Jesus. It's about allowing people to experience the love and the hope of Jesus, because we truly believe that hope changes everything. And we believe that as we live out our story, that God's story becomes an echo into this community, and that more people know who he is. And it says in Acts chapter 2, verse 47, and the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. That's our prayer. That's our goal. That's our desire. That God would use us in this moment in time, that he has brought us together for such a time as this. That you and I, long before I ever even knew you, long before you were ever a light on this board, God had a plan for you to be sitting here tonight. He had a plan for me to be with you and for us to embark on this adventure together. And I'm so honored to be a part of it, and I'm so excited about what God is going to do as we continue to write the story of God. As Jesus said, Matthew chapter 5, you're the light of the world. Let your light so shine before others that they see your good deeds. They see who Hope City is. And they don't praise Justin. They don't praise the musicians. They don't think, what a cool building. They praise your Father in heaven. May we be a people who will not rest, who will not be satisfied until more of our friends and neighbors and coworkers and cousins and relatives and neighborhood people all know who Christ is. May that keep us up at night. May that be the driving force of our life, because we're here to help people find hope and then to follow God. And I love being on this journey with you, and I'm thankful to be able to kick off summer just worshiping with you. Can we close our eyes? And I'm going to ask Isaiah just to turn off all of the lights. We're going to pray.